Hello and welcome everyone to Practice Growth Strategies, the podcast that will help you grow your practice. I'm Dr. Tabor Smith. I'm excited to be here with one person I would say is a very functional value to this podcast, meaning that he is doing this right now, not only teaching chiropractors how to be successful and how to get into corporations, how to share a valuable message. He's doing it himself and in his own offices. And I always love to bring those type of people in because, you know, my audience, you listening right now, like you can take what you hear today and you learn today and you can implement it tomorrow. So my guest, Dr. Christie, he is the host of the Modern Desk Jockey podcast, and he has been doing a lot more. Kevin, how are you today, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with your audience.
Absolutely. We appreciate you taking the time out. I know you're busy. You got a million things going on. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what is it that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been practicing since 2005. I'm down in South Florida, down in Boca Raton, Florida. I also have a office in Miami. I don't really go down there too much. More of a kind of a sports chiropractic practice. Work with a lot of sports injuries, a lot of athletes. I really focused on that niche early on and tried to do as much as I could. Had a lot of really good opportunities to work with professional athletes and such. And so it really was a passion of mine. It still is. And then subsequently in 2011, when I opened up my own practice in 2010, and right out of the gates in 2011, I had a large corporation come to me about on-site chiropractic. And so I took the opportunity. Once I realized I could do it in one location, I figured I could scale it. And so since then, corporate wellness, corporate chiropractic, whatever you'd like to call it, has been another niche that I've been focusing on. And that's just kind of, gathered some momentum over the years. And we've added locations like Royal Caribbean and Tyco and ADT and Glanbia Nutrition. There's about 6 of them now. And so it's been really fun. And then, like you mentioned, a year ago, it's actually been exactly a year. Next week, I launched the Modern Desk Jockey podcast, which you were so graceful to be on and gracious, and I appreciate that. And so that's all about health and wellness for the desk worker.
I love that, man. Now, I'm very interested in hearing this, and we can go into, any detail or any, little path we can take off of this topic. But I know a lot of chiropractors listening right now are like, how in the world did you set up relationships like that with those corporations? Because I think every chiropractor has that as a, man, that'd be nice type of a thought,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of feedback on that since probably the last year, where I've focused a lot on trying to be a resource for chiropractors, because of that exact thing you just said, is that, wow, that would be great, but then it can be very cumbersome or, kind of scary to try to talk to a company of, all the red tape and who do you speak to. And so I've really tried to help chiropractors with that aspect of it. And to be honest with you, the best way and how I got into my first one, which was just my patient base. We have such a captive audience that comes into our practice. And whether you're in a big town or a small town, there's going to be corporations and there's going to be employees that come into your office. And so that's kind of where I start. It's been very helpful for me to do that. And then from there, there's a lot of different details we can go into.
Tell us, what does a relationship like that look like with a corporation?
Yep. So it looks like many things. It can really, the first thing is, and at the end, I'll kind of give where they can access I wrote a really kind of long, detailed article with research on the 7 key takeaways of, making a business case for on-site chiropractic for corporations. But really,
you can give that now, and we'll give it at the end if you want.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. It's actually a really nice PDF that I put, so they can email me at kevin@moderndeskjockey.com, and I'll send it over to them. And that way, because I'm starting to gather a lot of different resources that I'm using myself. And so as I develop that, I try to provide it for folks. And so I'll be able to send that over to them. But yeah, so it looks like a lot of things. And one of them is the fact that, one is corporations realize that the cost of healthcare and the cost of unhealthy employees is just killing their bottom line. I've got a really good research article with a graph that shows the cost of health insurance premiums and work comp and premiums compared to inflation and the actual pay of these employees. And it's just like 195% growth since 1999, which is killing their bottom line. So they know they have a problem. And so they want to do wellness, but there's many faces of wellness. And some of it is, heck, they call it blood pressure screening wellness initiative. Granted, we want to reduce people's blood pressures, but there's a lot more to it than that. And so it's about then having the musculoskeletal conversation with them, which is like when you and I hit it off in Puerto Rico, was your spinal hygiene movement, and how it cuts through the clutter of all this stuff, and so the spine related issues within musculoskeletal care is one of the highest cost contributors to these employees. And so the companies are spending so much money on spine related issues, low back, neck, headaches, to name the top three. So then, okay, we now have that cleared, right? And we can have that conversation with them and say, okay, we know musculoskeletal conditions is costing you a ton of money. We know spine is the main issue of that. And then from there, we want to position ourselves as chiropractors as, why should you now have on-site care, and then why should you have chiropractors? There was a great study, Optum Health's client data of 2011, that shows that chiropractic is the most affordable and most effective kind of portal of entry for musculoskeletal care. And so those are the types of things, those are the types of conversations you want to have with the corporations. Within the profession of chiropractic, there's a big spectrum of communication and, discussing certain things that chiropractic can or maybe cannot do. You don't really want to have that conversation with HR, right? You don't want to discuss certain things that you cannot show actual data to, because that's just how they function. Everything is black and white in a corporate setting, and you want to show the proof in the pudding to them that, and we can do that with research. We really can show that chiropractic is the best thing for the spine, low back, neck, headaches, all the different things from a musculoskeletal standpoint, as far as talking to these corporations. And then from there, being able to show the effectiveness of chiropractic in preventing that. So that's kind of how you do it.
That's awesome. Now, would that be, so you would take like a table and you would go and you would give care at the actual corporation? Is that right?
Well, it was kind of funny. The first location we got, which was ADT Security, which most people have heard of them, pretty large corporation. They actually had envisioned this. You walk in, it's a main street, and it's lined with different stores. It's got a gym, it's got a salon, you can get your hair and nails done. It's got a dry cleaners, Starbucks, it's got massage, it's got chiropractic. I have my own sign there. Like, it looks like I'm on Main Street. And they gave me my own room and even a little bit of a lobby area. So we outfitted that like a one office chiropractic clinic, wow. Its own table and all that. So I kind of was like, oh, this is great. I'm gonna do this at all the locations, But then, reality sets in, and then you get a Royal Caribbean down in Miami that we are on site with, has 1,800 employees. So it's a very large campus. We have a portable table in the aerobics room the 2 days a week that we're there. And we use like a little divider partition. Luckily, they're not like doing aerobics during our time there, and the door shut, so there's privacy. But yeah, you gotta, sometimes you have the fancy office, and sometimes you bring a portable table.
That is awesome. I love that. Mm-hmm. Now, tell us, because let's move into like, because I know that chiropractors, you've already given them an idea. I think a lot of us listening to you right now are kind of thinking like the wheels are turning right now, like that's possible, like that could happen. And in this next, portion of the interview, if you don't mind, maybe giving let's do two things. Let's give an action step. Like, what would be one action you would take to move closer to having that type of relationship with a corporation? And then we're going to get into what you could do to help maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I think first off, you got to look at it from two standpoints. One is on-site chiropractic or on-site anything, right? It could be on-site talks, it could be screenings, it can be ergonomics assessment. There's all kinds of things you can do for the local companies.
Right.
And then there's positioning yourself in the community as the expert in desk related conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're inherently doing that through your spinal hygiene movement, and it just is so congruent with that. But that's what I'm trying to do for ourselves. Like for instance, my Modern Desk Jockey podcast, I did that for a B2B, like a business to business strategy to get corporations. But I do a Facebook ad to it, and I target, anybody that works at ADT and Tyco and there's a couple other large corporations around my community, and it targets them on Facebook. So I have people in my community saying, oh, well, if he's got a podcast, and I'm not saying everybody has to have a podcast,
Sure.
if he's got a podcast or if he's doing videos on ergonomics and he's doing articles on it, he must really know what he's talking about. So I'm getting a lot more people coming to my practice that are desk workers. So it works twofold. And so I would say that's the first strategy, is to start producing content that's effective for the desk worker and utilize that as kind of a Trojan horse to then get into companies and have conversations. Like another thing that I've given away, you might have seen in my Facebook group, is the information cards that I actually send to these docs where it's in a PSD file. So all you have to do is have your graphics designer change the logo, color scheme, and address for your clinic. And it's like a micro break card that you can have printed out nicely, an ergonomics card, and you can give these to your patients that come into your office. And so you're now getting some marketing collateral onto their desk. I encourage them to pin it up to their workstation to remind them, but it also reminds them of my clinic address and everything. And so it's just getting that momentum of content going so that when the first actual action step, so that's like kind of a global action step, but an actual action step is to start talking to your patients. And if you have any patients, because one of the biggest questions I get is, who do I contact? These are the people you want to contact. And a lot of times they're your patients. And if they're not, it's like maybe the second degree they are. Okay. So it's like HR is a great start. Some companies have a delineated corporate wellness director. That's a great start. Health and safety manager, if it's more of a physical laborer job or like manufacturing versus your kind of white collar office setting. I have one company that has a facilities manager. And so they're in charge of having any vendors come in and utilize the facilities. And so I've had to talk to that person. And then sometimes it's a smaller company and you have a direct one-on-one with the CEO of the company that makes those types of decisions, or maybe it's even the CFO. So those conversations, start having them with your patient and say that you provide on-site services. And again, if you're not ready for on-site chiropractic yet, don't necessarily worry about that. Start doing on-site talks and all the things I mentioned before. And maybe you become almost like a preferred provider for that company and they start referring you patients. And so I think that's the first action step to have, is global content strategy, positioning yourself as the expert in health and wellness for the desk worker, and then start having the conversations with those folks in those departments of companies.
And I just want to reiterate for the listeners what you just said. Like that is the absolute, holy grail of what I feel is like, it's number one, the biggest mistake chiropractors are making. Number two is the best thing that you could do is start putting out content in the area that you want to be an expert in, so that when you look, a lot of times we're going to them and we're saying, I'm an expert here, hire me. I'm an expert here, let me in. And they're going, we don't even know who you are. But first of all, if they see you in advance, because you're running Facebook ads to them, and imagine if those, the HR person actually is like, we need something like this. I see like the Modern Desk Jockey podcast on Facebook. I'm like, my employees need something like this. I'm going to listen to this podcast a few times. I really like this. And then they might even reach out to you, but let's say you reach out to them, at least they know like you are the expert on this. They've listened to you actually talk about and teach about what it is that you're actually contacting them. Now that's best case scenario. Like secondly, if let's say they never heard of you, but you could contact them and you could actually show them, look what I'm doing. Look, here's my content. I've been doing this for, months or years or whatever. And I've been putting out this great content. Check it out. you're still that much more likely to actually set up some kind of relationship like this. The key is you have to put that training out there so that people can see you as an expert versus just telling them you're an expert. So I think that's awesome. That's great advice. I appreciate that. And let's we can kind of wind down the interview. I want you to let us know just what you're doing, how you would help the chiropractor who's listening right now that wants more help. I know that we've already said send an email to Kevin at moderndeskjockey.com. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely.
And for a special resource on what we've been talking about today, and anything else you want to add would be great.
Yeah, they can email me for that, and I'll also send them those info cards that they can then rebrand. Honestly, it's been one of the best things that we've done. You can use them digitally, like once you rebrand them, you can email it to your list, or you can put it on Facebook. You can do all those different things. But I highly recommend also having it printed on nice cardstock and have them at your office. And every one of your desk worker that comes in and say, here, do these micro breaks. Every 60 minutes, put this on your workstation. So now you're top of mind when maybe their daughter has an issue or their colleague has a headache, they think of you as well. So you're keeping that top of mind awareness once they maybe fall out of care. So you can email me for that as well. And then if you have any interest, we definitely have the closed Facebook group, which is called the Modern Chiropractic Marketing Group. It's got everything marketing. Like today, we actually had someone do a Facebook Live on SEO and such, but I definitely have kind of a content tilt to it that is, corporate chiropractic. And in September, we're actually launching the Corporate Chiropractor Academy, which will be basically everything you'd want to have in an academy. And the other thing that's pretty cool that we're able to do was, I won't be long-winded on this, but we've had a couple companies purchase our digital-based ergonomics assessment because there was companies that have many locations and many people, and ergonomics can be very cumbersome. So we found a solution for that. I spent a lot of money developing this learning center. And so we're able to actually white label that as well. And it's called the Healthy Desk Jockey. And so a chiropractor will be able to actually embed that onto their website, and it'll look like it's theirs. So it'll be branded like with their colors. It'll basically look like they're part of their website. And there's many things you'll be able to utilize with that. And then the third is you'll kind of be attached at our hip as we grow and learn different tactics and ideas and stuff like that. The chiropractor have access to that. So you can expect that kind of in September. So, get in touch with me if there's any interest from there. Or if you have any questions, like I get a lot of people that Facebook message me or email me or in the Facebook group about it. And I'm, pretty happy to answer any of those questions.
That's awesome, man. That's going to be really cool. And the private Facebook group, they can just search for it and then ask to join. What is the name of it again? I'll make sure I put it in the show notes.
Yeah, the Modern Chiropractic Marketing Group. So pretty simple little name, and got a lot of good minds in there just workshopping marketing ideas.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Dr. Christie, for your time today. We really appreciate it. It was a very, very valuable interview, and I appreciate you dropping all those value bombs on everybody. Keep up the great work, and any closing remarks?
No, I look forward to helping out in any way I can. Thanks for everything you're doing, and I know that we may be seeing each other in the near future. So
awesome.
Thank you for the opportunity.